What a race, complicated race, complicated by the weather, by the newness of the circuit to many of the teams and drivers, and also caused by the drama of a track surface that was only laid 2 weeks before the race. And you could say what an absurd thing, but you know, in this COVID year, I think we were lucky to race in Turkey and get a race on an amazing circuit. And of course, it would be brilliant if we had been able to surface it at 6 months in advance, but that was never going to happen. And there was always going to be a risk of the bitumen fluid, etc., going everywhere, and that's exactly what happened. But I don't think we should give anyone a hard time about that, as I say. So it was the same for everyone. That was the other point. I think looking back now, obviously the euphoria, the justified euphoria around Lewis's 7th World Drivers' Championship being clinched is taken all the headlines, really, all the oxygen. But I think we need to just spend a little bit more time thinking about Lance Stroll and how A, he won the pole, and B, he then did a great job in the early laps of the race when the track was wet. We now know why he faded in the race on that first set of intermediate tyres when everybody else was starting to find grip. We now know why he faded, having built up an amazing lead on that first set of intermediates when everybody else, not everybody else, but a lot of other people were starting to find a bit of a sweet spot. And some teams use that to turn the intermediates into slicks, like Lewis and like Sergio Perez. Other teams like Ferrari really got it right in terms of the call for the second stop and finished the race with tyres that had pretty good grip, although Charles Leclerc will probably disagree with that on the last corner. But they got it pretty well right in the sense that Perez's tyres for sure were right on the edge, on the canvas when he got to Parc Fermé. And Lewis, of course, did a great management job. But anyway, getting back to Lance Stroll, he had a delamination of a strake under the front of the car, and that lost him a lot of downforce. Now, whether that delamination was caused by some sort of contact with the curb or whether it was just a straight delamination, I'm not sure the team know, but he lost a lot of downforce suddenly, and that's when you heard him on the radio saying, the front's gone away, what's happening? And that was unfortunate. And I think one of the problems is that the teams don't have a massive amount of wet weather data. And so when they see a very strange number suddenly appearing in terms of downforce in the wet or wettish conditions, they don't immediately think, big problem, bring him in, nose change. They think, I wonder if that's really what it is. It's telling us we lost a massive amount of downforce, but have we really? And there's some, I think that is just, that is teams just not having enough data, really. And the fact remains that if they brought Lance in, or they changed the nose when he came in for that second set of intermediates, probably would have been, a 10-second, 12-second stop to change the nose. And he could well have got a top 3 finish out of that. So that's what happened there. It was a bit of a shame for him because he's, I think it says quite a bit about his personality, actually, how hard he has been working as a racing driver to be as good as he can be. I think it's very easy when you've got, I imagine it's very easy, I'll never know, if you're the son of a trillionaire, what it must be like, presumably with a lot of pressure to deliver. And it would be very easy to sort of go off the rails in the wrong directions and focus on the wrong things. But the fact that Lance has done a lot of work with Rob Wilson, and no doubt will continue to do a lot of work with Rob Wilson, shows that he has an understanding and a grasp of what the fundamentals are all about. I made that point after qualifying when he got the pole, and I reiterate the point now, because if anybody needs to take a trip to Rob Wilson again and refresh himself as to the fundamentals of driving, it's, in my opinion, Valtteri Bottas. I mean, after that race, yeah, he could say, oh, well, forget about it, that was just one of those weekends. Or he could be honest with himself and say, that was an abysmal weekend, I should have done a better job. And I think if he went back to fundamentals with Rob, I think you'd see a much better Valtteri Bottas. Whether or not he's in that mindset now at this stage of his career, where in theory he's a great fast racing driver who can win Grand Prix, I've no idea. But it's a shame, I think, that he's not doing that. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, I'm not sure I said enough about Charles Leclerc. I'm slightly wary of going on about Charles Leclerc because I think he is one of the top 3 drivers. I put him up there with Max and Lewis. I think he's superb in just about every dimension. But I do think he drove brilliantly again in Turkey, from where he was on the grid and the way he went through the field, the way he paced his race, how patient he was early on. Yeah, he made that mistake on the last corner, or second last corner, but he was going for it, wasn't he? That was P2 from where he was on the grid. So I don't think you can really hold that against him. He holds it against himself, I'm sure. But as I said at the time, still for Ferrari to be second and fourth was not a bad result at all. And I suppose Racing Point will be thinking, well, we have Lance, we have Sergio, we have Sebastian Vettel next year. We dominated that race. Well, yeah. If it was between Sergio Perez right now or Sebastian Vettel in the other car, I think I'd probably go for Sergio Perez. I think he's got a lot to prove. I think he's hungry. I think he's getting better all the time. I've never seen him drive as well as he has in the wet, which shows how much he's learning and how much he's developed in that environment. Equally, Sebastian, I'm sure, will be thinking fresh start, fresh people, fresh everything, just as he did when he went to Ferrari. But what he didn't do was actually change the way he worked as a racing driver, or drives a racing car. And if he's got a great back end on the car next year and lots of downforce, the car's working well, then that's fabulous. He'll be really quick, as we saw, great car control. But if he does have to work at it, I'm sure Sergio Perez would be more than a match. Anyway, starting to rain in the Lotus Elan, and the water's starting to drip into the footwell area, as always happens with the Elans. I've got the car running perfectly now, as you might be able to hear, but the one thing will never change is the wet footwell area. So I'm going to have to go now and sort that out. See you soon.